I didn't plan to make this video. Actually, yesterday I wasn't thinking about content at all. I was sitting with my friend Yusuf and we were talking about random things like we usually do. And out of nowhere, he said, "What do you think if we go tomorrow to Tokara?" Tokara is 77 kilometers away from here. I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. And before I could even process the distance, he said, "without using our cars." And then he added something that made even less sense. He said, "let's go separately, each one alone, and we meet there." And the strange thing is, I said yes. I didn't think about it too much. I didn't calculate. I didn't ask practical questions. I just said yes. I've been asking myself why I said yes that quickly. Maybe because I like challenges. Maybe because I don't like to say no to uncomfortable ideas. Maybe because I didn't want to look hesitant. Or maybe I felt if I didn't say yes, I would regret it later. That morning, I woke up and the wind was very strong. You know when the weather itself feels like a warning? The kind of wind, constant, loud, the type that makes you want to stay inside. So I called him and I asked, "Are we still doing this?" And he said, "Of course, now it's even better." I realized that moment that this was actually going to happen. I didn't prepare like someone who's about to walk 77 kilometers. I put one jacket in my bag, some dates, my phone charger, water, and that's it. No deep planning, no map strategy, no backup plan. While I was packing, I had this quiet thought in my head. This might be stupid. But I closed the bag anyway. When I left my room and closed the door behind me, something felt different. There is a moment when you know the day won't be normal, and you feel it. And suddenly your house feels very safe, predictable, controlled, and outside is unknown. But I stepped outside anyway. At the beginning, it felt almost peaceful. My energy was high. I felt strong. I felt like this was gonna be an interesting story. Very early on, I did the math in my head. 77 kilometers. If I walked all the way, it would take at least 17 hours. And that's only one direction. And we had to return the same day. So logically, it wasn't possible. And I knew it wasn't possible. But sometimes you don't start things because they make sense. Sometimes you start because you want to see what happens inside you when things don't make sense. The first 10 kilometers were easy, and I felt good, almost proud of myself. And I noticed how quickly ego appears. You started imagining the story. You imagine how you will explain it later. You feel slightly heroic. But after around 18 kilometers, my body started talking. My legs became heavier, my steps slower, and when your body gets tired, your mind becomes louder. I started negotiating with myself. I said to myself, "Listen, you don't need to finish this. No one forced you. You already did enough." And that internal conversation, it's very real. It's not dramatic, it's subtle, but it's there. And then an old man stopped his car and asked me where I was going. I told him. He looked at me in a way that said, "Why would you do that?" But he told me to get in. He dropped me closer to the edge of the city. And I remember thinking that sometimes when you move, even if it's slow and imperfect, things shift, help appears. Not always, but sometimes. I kept walking 4 more kilometers, another ride, and finally I was outside my city. And crossing your city on foot feels very different than crossing it by car. When you drive, Distance disappears. When you walk, you feel every meter. Around 12 and a half, Yusuf called me. He said, I am in Tokara. I laughed when he said that, not because it was funny, but because I was still far, very far. And suddenly I felt behind. Even though this wasn't a race, it felt like one in that moment. The road I was walking on was under maintenance. Cars couldn't really stop. The wind was very strong. There was dust everywhere, and I was just walking. And I felt small, not in a negative way, just aware. Aware of how big that this world is. Aware of that I am just one person walking on a very long road. At some point, I stopped and ate dates on the side of the road. That was my only food. And I remember thinking that how simple that moment was. No restaurant, no comfort, just dates, water, and wind. And it was enough. After walking more, I hit a real wall. My legs didn't feel strong anymore. They felt mechanical. Every step required attention. And I had still around 20 kilometers left. It was 4:30 in the afternoon, and that's when reality became clear. I wasn't going to reach Tokra, not today. I stopped at a mosque, I prayed, I sat quietly for a while. And when you stop moving, after hours of walking, everything slows down inside you. Yusuf called again and said, we were running out of time. We needed to return. And in that moment, I felt disappointed. I wanted to finish. I wanted to say I reached it. But also I knew something deeper. This day was never really about Tokara. So he came to my location and we met somewhere between cities, not at the destination, just somewhere in the middle. We looked tired, dusty, wind everywhere, and we just smiled. We didn't say something dramatic. We just started walking back together. And once we stopped chasing the destination, everything felt lighter. We walked through green fields, we saw sheep, we watched the sun start to go down. We talked less. We were just there. Eventually, we got a ride, then another, and we ended up back in our city. When I got home, I didn't feel like I achieved something huge. I felt calm. I just felt calm. And later that night, I started thinking about what actually happened. I realized how small my daily world is. Home, training, coffee, phone, same streets, same routine. And when you walk that far, even if you don't reach the goal, you see different neighborhoods, different faces, different realities. And you understand that you live inside a bubble most of the time. We didn't spend any money, not a single cent, and still we experienced so much. So it made me question how many experiences we delay because we think we need money. Maybe sometimes we just need willingness. I didn't reach Tokara, and that's important to say clearly. We failed the original goal, but I don't regret it. Because there's something different about choosing discomfort. When life forces difficulty on you, it feels heavy. But when you choose it, it feels strengthening. And failure feels different when you know you gave effort. There was a moment on the road when I realized I might not reach Tokra. And I had two choices internally. I could either feel embarrassed about it, or I could accept it. And I choose acceptance. I didn't try to lie to myself. I didn't try to turn it into a fake victory. I just said, okay, today I won't reach it. And somehow that felt stronger than forcing it. I have noticed that when I stay too comfortable for too long, I start overthinking small problems. I start complaining about things that don't really matter. I become mentally soft. But one uncomfortable long day resets something. It reminds you that you can handle more than you think. And it reminds you that the world is bigger than your room. When I look back at the day, I don't see failure. I see effort. I see movement. I see exposure to something bigger than my routine. And that's enough for me. Maybe next time I will reach Tokra. Maybe we'll plan better. Maybe we'll start earlier. Or maybe we'll fail again. But I don't think the destination is the main point anymore. The main point is to keep stepping outside because life feels different out here. More real, more raw, more honest. And I don't want to forget that.